Hello Hibiscus. So I appreciate by the time you are watching this video, you may find yourself in a peculiar space, both when it comes to your mental and emotional well-being, right? And the purpose of this video is to really get you to hold your nerve and show up. 2025 is a Mars-ruled year. This is a year that you apply the wisdom. This is a year of action. You will not be rewarded for carrying away, for trying to hide, avoid making decisions. That's not the season we're in anymore, hibiscuses. Let's do some context setting, right? The last 5 years were a period of astrological death and rebirth. It runs from 2020 all the way to very early parts of 2025. The process of death and rebirth is thorough. It's an ass kicking, it's an audit, it's a thorough performance review, if you will, right? Think of it like this. When we astrologically go through the process of death and rebirth, it forces us, whether we like it or not, to come face to face with the reality and the consequences of who we are, what we've been up to, the ideologies that we uphold, the things that we believe, how we engage with others, who we give our energy to. Every little thing comes under scrutiny. That's fabulous, right? Because in real time, you understand and you are given so many helping hands and warning signs about what is feeding you and quite literally what is killing you. And you have the option to change. So that process takes 5 years, right? You don't change a habit overnight. And again, I firmly believe God only shows us stuff when God knows we can take it and we can rise to the occasion, right? It's not designed to break your heart. It's not designed to discourage you. But there is power in conflict. There is power in discipline, self-awareness, and accountability. And those who can do that and rise to the occasion, it doesn't matter if you get it right the first time or not, but the ability to be consistent and participate is of the utmost importance, right? So again, you've had this long process over 5 years, right? Where you've learned a lot about yourself, you become acutely aware of what's cool and what's not. And then in the final year, in 2024, we had a Saturn ruled year. Saturn's main job is to teach us how to swim through the waves of karma. And I find it so fascinating that the last deity that would guide us through that is Saturn. Because what did I kept saying to you all last year? Pay attention. Show up intentionally, because all that you do, however you move and groove in that year, that's not only teaching you how to handle what the next 7 years will come, that is going to hugely contribute to this new 20-year cycle that you're going to find yourself in. And that's what 2025 is. It's not a year of transformation, it's a year of consequences. It's a year where you begin a 20-year cycle where you now will reap the rewards, consequences, blessings, education, inspiration of all that you were up to in those last 5 years, particularly in 2024. And just remember, Saturn, for better or worse, has shown you how to swim that storm. If you are struggling, I promise you it is because you are not, 1, being open to the wisdom, and number 2, applying the wisdom. 2025 is a Mars-ruled year. This is no longer time for reflection. It is a time for action. And with that, I cannot think of a better time to talk to you about Saturn being direct and finishing its time through the 9 types of Aquarius, right? Saturn represents the following, especially in the last few years. 1, breaking illusions. Number 2, accumulation of wealth. Number 3, human miseries. And the thing is, Saturn in our religious scriptures is the original victim. People are not kind to Saturn. Saturn does not even come into this world on a happy note. Saturn's earliest life experiences are mean. They are miserable. They are cruel. But isn't it really interesting? The deity that represents the earliest concept of victims and being on the receiving end of really cruel behaviors and not so pleasant things of human life and aspects, is the same individual who by the end of it is the most powerful, is the most wisest, is the most strongest, is the most fairest, and is the most kindest and merciful. There is a lesson in Saturn's story for you, right? And then think about Saturn in Aquarius nakshatras. Saturn is at its strongest in Aquarius. It loves being in Aquarius, right? Because Aquarius, whilst the 9 types of Aquarius represent different things, collectively they represent this: innovation. Saturn likes applying wisdom. He doesn't like holding wisdom. He likes wisdom that's useful. Number 2, community. Saturn has been ostracized. It has so much love, respect, and support for people who know not only how to cultivate and create community, but sustain community, gives community, protect community. And then thirdly, work. The Aquarius nakshatra's work ethic is very hard to rival, right? You put that all together, the journey you've been on with Saturn in the last nearly 3 years in Aquarius has been that it has shown you all the things that make you different are the things that will protect you, and your power not lies in individuality but in community. And there is nothing that is built at the moment that is adequate, safe, or healthy for us. So innovate, challenge, oppose, do differently, and those who do, I promise you, what does Saturn represent? An accumulation of wealth, legacy, longevity. If you can have that fire in your belly and you can have enough courage to oppose and do the right thing, even when it's unsexy, even when it's not popular and all of that, I promise you, I will back you so heavy that not only, it's not about you having the last laugh, the riches I bestow upon you will be a story to others who conform and become indifferent to pain and suffering. That's the time we're in. It's not an era of transformation, it's an era of consequence, right? So, you know the routine. Go and grab a cup of jar, get comfortable. Let's talk about reflecting on the lessons that Saturn going through Aquarius has taught us, and what you're gonna do this year to make sure you apply all that wisdom and really put your best foot forward. Your brightest days are around the corner. And the one thing I really want to encourage you all to keep in front of your mind, obviously I hate Starbucks spirituality. I literally think it's a disease to the soul and one of the colonizers' nastiest weapons, right? But in Dharmic faiths, all our religious scriptures show war. They show the nastiest of human behaviors. But in the same time these things are going on, you have heroes births. You have the world's greatest educators, inventors, healers. Chaos makes for incredible people, and they can take people who think they are ordinary people and give them extraordinary destinies. Do not lose your nerve. This is not the year 2, and I promise you, there is nothing that will happen this year that hasn't happened before, and it is the exact things like this that create change. It is not in your MO to be in a reflective and somber state. It is in your MO to be passionate, caring, communal, and just problem solving. So let's go, hibiscuses.
Would it be a crime if I was the one that started the fire? Oh, the damage is done, baby. What if it was me? What if I was the one holding the gun?
So let's do some context setting, right? 2025 is astrologically a very potent year because the big 4 are all shifting, and they are shifting into what I can only describe as final beast mode signs, right? Rahu and Ketu, the karmic axes, are now entering the same signs that Saturn has been in for the last 3 years. Jupiter is moving into the Gemini nakshatras, which talks about the releasing of ancestral blessings and curses. And then our good old pal Saturn is entering Pisces, which, to summarize, is about paying the last debts to society, right? So that teaches us a few things. Number one, all unresolved past life karmas will come to the forefront, and any historical issues that have not been resolved or have not been thoroughly acknowledged and worked through, they implode during this time. How interesting it would happen in a Mars ruled year, which is about action, right? Problem solving, ambition, getting the job done. Number two, it is a time of innovation. When Rahu goes through the Aquarius nakshatras and Ketu goes down the Leo nakshatras, it's a falling of the old guard. You are essentially in the Wild West. Everything is up for grabs. Build however you want, but nothing is the same. The rules don't apply. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Whoever is hungry and wants to get it can get it. Those who want to observe will fall behind, right? And thirdly, you have an option that lays ahead. You can either take control of your future and actively contribute to the things that you want to see in society and build them if they don't exist, or you can cower, you can observe, you can be indifferent, you can be docile, whatever, but then be prepared to suffer. This is a time where you will learn the thing I want you to keep in mind is, if you ever find yourself being resentful and jealous, or perhaps, a little bit green-eyed towards other people because you see them flourishing this year and you're like, why is these things not happening to me? They rose to the occasion. They applied the wisdom. And I bet you have a conversation about how horrendous the last 5 years were for them, but they never gave up. They were consistent. You chose to cling to your comfort zone. You chose to not take yourself seriously. You chose to play into dynamics, organizations, norms, knowing they were not that great, knowing the harm they perpetuated, and whatever. But that same whatever meets you now for the next 20 years. That's why I kept warning you all. Don't feel afraid of uncomfortable conversations. Don't worry about making unsexy decisions. Do stuff that you know sincerely is right for you and authentic to who you are. And I promise you, you cannot go wrong. Doesn't mean the journey isn't without its lumps and bumps, but you will feel validated and empowered, because 2025 is the year of great humiliation. The reason I label it the great humiliation is people start clocking on how all the stuff they were up to, you know the phrase, like, say trulu in your delulu, right? So enable delusions. That's going to have a really messy impact this year. And again, let's just quickly look back at Rahu and Ketu, right? Because they're the karmic nodes. They are destiny, they are fate, they are everything in terms of things that will unfold. So quite quickly, look, when we went through 2019 and 2020, Rahu was going through the 9 types of Gemini and Ketu was going through the 9 types of Sagittarius. That represents the beginning of the death process. It's destruction at its finest. Because what it talks about is the soul becomes aware, however it was living or navigating in that time, it cannot connect to its purpose, right? It is gonna start getting, it's also God's hands, but either you would have broke away from repetitive cycles, or God will snatch you out of circumstances that you weren't moving from to show you that, look, staying here, no good can come. You can kick, you can scream, but I'm trying to get you on a better path. Because again, for us, the reason the process of death and rebirth is so long is because you process your karmas. Did I mention to you guys, enlightenment isn't like aha in terms of knowledge. It talks about someone going through the process of shedding karmas. You get lighter. And again, during this period, you get a lot of knowledge after very painful life experiences. And something about that time, it begins a process where you begin developing a knowledge or mindset that can't be taken away from you. How fitting. Then you have 2020 to 2022 when Rahu was going through the Taurus nakshatras and Ketu was going through Scorpio nakshatras. So the soul really begins to wake up, right? And it doesn't want to be led by others. So it starts flooding the soul with a lot of inspiration and frustrations, right? And all this time, whilst you're going through a process of what feels like death, rot, and loss, you're being liberated. You're being shown so many ways what is good for you, what you would actually like, and you're being freed of a lot of the stuff that holds you back. It's a different conversation if you lean into that or resist that, right? And it also talks about this time of overcoming like interpersonal demons and breaking boundaries. So again, I always say this very openly because I think it's important. Even me, right? So clearly destined to do Vedic astrology, so clearly to A, B, and C. The way I have resisted for nearly 27 years of my life, truly, because you guys didn't meet me until my late 20s going into my 30s. Even me, right, goes through that process with you all. And that's what I say, like, it's fine to be resistant. In some regards, I think it's healthy because you'll be more self-aware and accountable. But at some point, the things that are meant for you, it's only you that's blocking them. And if you're blocking the things that are really meant for you, I don't think you can find true happiness and peace anywhere else, right? And I might be projecting and I might be really biased, but like, I can't emphasize this enough. There is a difference in my life between me chasing the things that I thought I wanted, and again, a lot of it was probably rooted in impressing others, versus me doing, quite ironically, what I love comes easily, and I could lead like all this, and how peaceful my life has gotten and how much other stuff has come. But yeah, everyone has an individual journey with it. Then 2022 to 2023, Rahu goes through all the Aries nakshatras and Ketu goes through all the Libra nakshatras. So essentially, relationships begin to break. The social contract is being corroded. And essentially, the things that you used to find valuable and wealthy and attractive crack, right? And basically, it's talking about a complete shift of values. Then we get to where we are now. So you have 2023 to 2025, where Rahu would go through the 9 types of Pisces and Ketu would go through the 9 types of Virgo. So this talks about being freed from manipulative speech, understanding of the consequences of the life that we have led. And again, really enlightenment begins. And I think people become acutely aware of how fortune has been denied to them. And they begin their own journey of redefining what abundance and wealth means to them, and in all honesty, balls to the wall going for it and getting it, right? Then they're just no longer down to play ball, right? They don't want anything from past life. And also this time will give you a lot of wisdom to face all adversity. Uttarbhadra marks the beginning. Basically, when you see Rahu and Uttarbhadra, where we currently are now, it always talks about someone being really passive until a shocking life event happens, and all of a sudden, up and at 'em. And then this leads us to the next 2 years. So I'll do a separate video about this, but essentially, when Rahu goes through Aquarius and Ketu goes through Leo, the mighty and the great begin falling. It's giving up the sense of me, and it's digging down into community. But you're going to clear out the rot, so therefore community can actually be like fair, just, nice, basically, and obviously not full of nonsense. We basically begin breaking the mold. We're going to start crafting the things we want to see. There's going to be a lot of conflict. There's going to be a lot of throwing your weight, but in the name of change, it has to be done. And the people you value really, really, really change. Again, we'll talk about this separately, but essentially, the greatest gurus are ones who have overcome adversities. They are not people who live in fluffy and niceness. They are not people who thrive when the norm is exploitation and harm. And naturally, hopefully, if you guys are evolving the way we're meant to be evolving, you will find them. If not, you will be very much a part of that falling that comes with Ketu and Leo. And conflicts about the transfer of power and learning to love ourselves and heritage come up a lot. And things where people used to think were ugly and useless all of a sudden have a different value. That's where we're at. That's what we've been through, right? So, as you think about this Saturn in Aquarius video, I don't want you to look at it Like, oh my god, I'm failing, da na na na. No, rise to the occasion. Think about truly what has led you where, and be so serious and militant about changing whatever needs to. And if you can do that, you'll be fine. If you do shit half-assed, half-hearted, look at me. I cannot help you. Do not book in a reading because you are not learning the basic lessons. Everyone in the last 5 years has so clearly been shown, personally, societal wise, in different layers of their life, what here is good, what here is bad, what here enriches me, what here hinders me. You have all the answers. You can't say with your chest, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. No, you know. You don't just like the answers, you little brat. And because you're so hell-bent on having life a certain way, it's you that misses out. You are the architect of your own misery. That was a lesson in the last 5 years. Apply it or drown, but don't be crying and screaming. And again, if you feel like you keep following things and getting duped, ask yourself a really easy question. Why am I attracted to hanging out with people who only ever cause me misery? Right? I'm talking politically, professionally, emotionally, romantically, whatever. The truth is, either you don't like yourself a lot, number two, you are such a mug for always wanting to follow things that you like to hear versus stuff that actually is good for you. And number three, well, I can't say number three, that'd be too rude, but like I said, architect of your own misery. And with that, let's start breaking down Saturn. Now, in Vedic astrology, each of the planets represent hundreds of different things, right? I personally feel when we look at Saturn, there were 3 clear themes that it was trying to educate, coach us on, and prepare us for. So I would love to break them down with you. The first one I actually had was this concept of the world finishing. Now, easy, it is not an apocalyptic way, but I do think in a very symbolic and emotional way, it was preparing us for the changes that we're going to see in the next 7 years. Hear me out, right? Think about what we discussed when we were looking at Rahu and Ketu go through the process of death and rebirth, right? That's a releasing and building of karmas in the most intense ways. And I think what Saturn was trying to teach us during that time was the following. Look around you. What is not here? What is not here that sustains you? What is not here that protects you? What is not here that empowers you? What is not here that makes you feel beautiful? What is not here that really is of service to community and others? What is not here? Now go and build them. Go and start brainstorming, problem solving, and bring it into creation. Because when Saturn talks about ending something, it's also talking about starting something. What do I say to you all the time? Destruction and creation are one of the same thing. You cannot be resentful to either side of the spectrum. They will always work together. You're better off learning how to balance their play off than to favor one over the other, right? And again, I want you to think about your personal lives when you watch this video. This is not a time where you get brownie points or you get this idea of better karmas for convincing yourself that you are happy in circumstances, dynamics, and habits that truly make you miserable. Let's take a really superficial, normal one, right? You don't get brownie points for showing up to a job where you hate the boss, you know you're not using your talents and skills, and you're biding your time. It will do. You don't get rewarded for that. You should not get rewarded for making yourself happy in miserable circumstances. And even as I speak to you, right, because in my head I'm thinking of other astrological transits and other horoscopes that I'm working on, right? And the biggest one that has been on my mind for ages, but I'm a little bit scared to do because I often feel very self-conscious when I have to make punchy predictions. But I was like, you're going to really see both literally and figuratively the death of celebrities and public figures. And I find it really interesting that through the process of death and rebirth, how we all kind of stepped away from these figures that would try to encourage or borderline manipulate us to find happiness through capitalism and exploitation of our labor, right? And it's the wildest thing for me because this is not just like self-help coaches, this is other spiritual practitioners. I cannot emphasize to you how much venom I have in my veins when it comes to people who do like law of attraction, manifestation, because I'm like, how fucking dare you? Because it's not that easy. And my heart breaks for all the people that really give their all to stuff like that and they cannot work out why their circumstances are not changing. You raggedy ass, bummy, exploitive, pompous, inadequate people, right? Because the truth is, the reason things are not changing is because number one, you have to look at your karmas. Number two, the systemic stuff that's around us. Astrology does not dismiss the realities that we exist in. So to sit there and tell someone, if you do A, B, and C, you can wash away the same shackles that are stopping you from progressing, I think is a great hindrance. But what I'm saying is, and getting back to it, I think it's very interesting how collectively over these last 5 years, we have all started kind of side eyeing or like lowering the volume a little bit or blocking people who keep trying to entertain us and make us indifferent and make us feel like we should be happy in environments that truly, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, not just like harming us, but I don't, without being dramatic, I think generally killing us, right? I think it's funny how like the Kardashians have fallen out of favor. I think it's very funny where all these kind of self-help gurus literally are having tomatoes thrown at them. I think it's very funny how people used to love listening to business and tech bros and now we're literally like eat the rich, viva la revolution, Marie Antoinette style, right? It's very telling. So again, when you look at Saturn's ability about coming, I think truly coming to accept the world that you lived in is no longer existing and that illusion is finished, it gives you a period of time where it's like you actually can contribute to building the world you would like to exist in, but it's gonna be hard work. Because again, what's Saturn? Saturn is not a punisher. Saturn is not a meanie. Saturn is there to teach you to swim through the waves of garments. And on that point, it's not really bittersweet, but sometimes I think it can be intimidating to people. Yeah, you cannot get out of facing the consequences of past karmas, right? You have to take it on the chin. How else would you learn, right? And it's not enough to be like, I know I did wrong and now I know better. Please don't make me face the consequences, please. No, it's a law of karma. We don't really have so much of a conversation of penance as like Abrahamic religions do, and perhaps other aspects of Dharmic philosophies do, because only when you face that do you truly have the wisdom. There is a certain magic and wisdom that can only come through painful experiences that I also sometimes think is more potent than nice experiences. But again, I could be projecting, I could be biased. I'm a super top house stadium, so I'm a bit like, gotta take the pain if you want the goodies kind of thing, right? So you have that. And then the other aspect of me is, well, what is so terrifying for you to move on, right? Isn't it wonderful that you could actually make a difference? And the thing is, because Saturn's whole thing is deal with the consequences. Once you've dealt with the consequences and you understand why things are the way that they are, and that clarity hits you, and again, no guarantee that clarity is going to be nice, but then you're in a position to not only make better decisions, but start building and having karmas on your side that allow for a brighter future. But it has to be done through hard work. It has to be done through an honest, like mental process where you are fully learning and taking things on board versus like superficial, like, yeah, I get it. And then later it's like, shit, I didn't write down the notes. This is why, in India and stuff, when if you ever find yourself in a position where you're learning Vedic astrology in a much more like intense spiritual way, it's so funny how many of like the gurus or like the really famed Vedic astrologers, they will never allow you to record their lessons. They'll literally just be like, listen, just listen and whatever sticks. It's like that process, right? Don't get so take up on taking notes that you miss out the moment. Listen, learn, be present, and then whatever sticks with you was meant to stick with you. That wisdom is meant to be applied in your life personally and it will become effective. It's like that, you know? And again, if you are scared of doing hard work, if you are scared of having uncomfortable conversations, if you're scared about I think knowing how to engage with conflict, and not in a way where you have to get ratty and like but like you can't hide from it either. Again, the architect of your own misery, right? And then I don't think anyone could honestly watch this video and tell me with a straight face and a full heart that everything that we used to exist in was better, because it's not. We're learning in so many different ways. All our norms harmed other people. I'll be frank with you, I knew like next to nothing when it came to environmentalism and consumption. And then over these last 5 years, the way I have learned, I'm just like, oh my, right? I literally was a poster child for fast fashion, like quick now Amazon delivery. It was not hard for me at all to switch off and walk away once I learned the following, right? So you talk about fast fashion, those clothes don't ever really last you, they break in the machine after 2 washes. But you're telling me there's a child in a factory being beaten black and blue so I can wear like a sexy little going out outfit? I'm okay, I can with the do. And in all honesty, I'd rather save up for money for a dress that I'll wear for multiple occasions than whatever the quick thing in the club was. Consumption wise, oh my God, I think the BDS boycott movement is the most sickest thing I've ever experienced because it taught me so much, right? Now, luckily, I've never been too brand dependent and stuff. I've always been kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit of an annoying hipster, so I like searching for independent brands, right? But equally, I didn't know how big and bad all these conglomerates were, right? So it's not hard for me to look off a Coca-Cola. It's no ask of me to stop using L'Oreal. Like, all of that's fine because I rather, again, if my energy and my money is going to go somewhere, I rather give that to something and somewhere where it contributes to good, or at the very least does not exacerbate the pain of others. And low key, between you and I think this energy is meeting me in other pleasant ways in my life. And that's the thing, right? There's almost a test in like, I will show you all the things why this thing can no longer function and why these things are no longer good, but I cannot force your hand to make different decisions. You can, though. If in any way or form you want to keep enabling all the nasty things about that society, about that world, about that dynamic, about that past life, that's up to you. But you will have to bear the consequences. So I was thinking about this a lot also. It's just like kind of because we also have to have conversations about multiculturalism in the future. Big fan. But I was like, there's something really rotten about people where like I teach about Starbucks spirituality on several fronts because it looks different culturally in terms of our community when you get these gurus who basically like are so sexist, so mean, so cruel towards people, and they kind of leverage knowledge to bully people. And then the other thing of people who don't even belong to the culture of religion, and they're going around doing all this bagasse with religious traditions. But I'm like, imagine knowing all of that and everything that I talk about, and then you still go to people who don't belong to our community, who definitely are using our traditions to exploit you for money, and you go to them for a reading, and then you're wondering why things are funky in your life, why you don't get picked for opportunities. I'm telling you, if you could learn anything, I would heavily get you to understand the power of different karmas, ancestral and communal. The way you show up in community, the way you engage and whatever you contribute to other people's life, that energy will always meet you back. So I'm just saying, like, really think about that aspect, right? And then the last thing, one thing I think has been really beautiful, because I really do stand 10 toes on business on this statement. So when you look at Saturn's aspect of the world ending, I'm really not scared because one thing I want to say is I have never seen so much like camaraderie, solidarity, love, appreciation, protection, and openness between different cultures and communities like I have in the last 2.5 years of my life, which also is Saturn going through Aquarius. Never in my life. I literally grew up like I'm a third culture kid, but then also I'm really multicultural. My whole life is pretty much, right. Um, I have never seen people be so down to break bread with people than these times, right? Like the thing that's so wild to me, we're all learning in different ways how intensely but also secretively and subtly we were fed propaganda to hate one another. And over time, that veil lifting, we're all like, oh shit, that happens to you, this happens to me, no, it happens to me. And then it's like, but it's not coming from here, and it's not coming from here, and we're at the bottom, so it's not coming from beneath us. Oh, it's these people up here? Class consciousness. That's what I'm saying. When you look at everything, I know it's crazy. shit show. I know it's not nice. I know it's not pleasant. I know it's chaotic. I know it's scary. But truly, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty awesome because what's crumbling? Exploitation, hate, division, all these things that like somehow, some way we become desensitized to and we're waking up. And yeah, do you know what? Fair play. In the process of waking up, of course they're gonna be so aggressive about shutting it down. Of course they're gonna sell to you that the past was so magnificent. The past was never magnificent. They just had more control and power. Take that however you want, whether it's in your personal life, professional life, society, culturally, whatever. That's what they're hungry for. And again, one thing I've been thinking a lot about is, and I'll use myself an example. You know, for ages I was a corporate babe. Like, it always makes me chuckle because I'm like, I don't think anyone sees it, right? But I'm like, no, when I tell you, I used to be a whole ass like monster in the corporate scene. Like, yeah, I was. And there's loads of moments where I'm like, you dumbass, Ronnie. Like, I think back and we're kind of, I don't know if we're fed or we're kind of groomed to think you can succeed, but only if you play by my rules and you emulate like the exploitation. And it's so weird, even when I was a D&I consultant, but thank God by the time I became a D&I consultant, I was pretty much like radicalized. So therefore I was like, I'm not accepting this bullshit. I don't want to do stuff more the same. And again, thank God, God's timing is so good. But before then, I would just be like, oh, well, it's better than nothing. We should settle for A, B, and C. And then over the years, I'm like, it's all bullshit. You could easily have great healthcare for free. You could easily make sure children have a great education that also allows them to explore their talents and skills. You could easily allow people to have families and be effective at work. You could easily do A, B, and C, but you don't want to. You don't want to be in a position that loses you any wealth. So you'll create all these crazy like cultural concepts. You'll create hate, you'll do A, B, and C just so you can accumulate wealth. You don't care about people. And when you know you're dealing with that, or you know truly that's the name of the game, because again, the biggest aha moment for me is when over the last 5 years, I went from thinking of colonialism as this super like racial, xenophobic, like that kind of thing. And I literally went, guys, it's literally just a financial venture. Strip all the emotions out of it, strip everything out about culture. It is literally a group of weirdos with this agenda to make money. They need to create a bunch of tools so they can keep exploiting resources and people. And then as long as they can pull the puppet strings and make you feel a certain type of way and some weird way get you to be like loyal and like see them as sparkly and like God's hand, they're good. But the second you go against that, they're fucked. And all it takes is a little aha. And it's really funny how they can only thrive on division and individuality. They cannot function when you have a global community. They cannot function with multiculturalism. It's not only enjoyed, but respected and protected and nurtured. So, yeah, when I was thinking about the third aspect of Saturn and the world ending, I appreciate not the easiest of message, but truly it's not the worst either. And you just need to apply the wisdom. The idea of going from a Saturn ruled year to a Mars ruled year is about, okay, all the cards you were meant to get are in your hand. All the wisdom you were meant to get bestowed on you. You have been shown everything. Now, as a grown ass adult, what would you like to do? Right? And even me now, like I also think a lot more about how can I be more effective, right? Because like before, like I used to feel enough for going to protests and signing a petition and like even the way I do my content, I was like, yeah, cool. And now I'm like, no, I want to do stuff more radically because we're getting there, but I don't know. I'm like, we have to be different and we have to be more harder because they're crumbling with us using like 20% of our efforts. Imagine if we applied 50% of the pressure. Imagine if we did 75%. And even this morning, I put an Instagram story up where I feel really uncomfortable with everything that's happening with America and its tech companies. And we're going to see more to come. Like, I'm going to do a whole Vedic astrology video on it because back it up, back up. As you expect, we have so much to gossip about when it comes to tech. But I was just like, I know how to solve this, but why is it so hard? Because realistically, it's about monopoly and keeping Western influence at the forefront, right? Did you know there's a whole thing called like tech colonialism? Let me know if you would like to learn about it, because I recently started learning about it, and I was like, But essentially, the easiest way to solve it is if we just all deleted our Instagrams and Facebooks and anything to Meta products, done. Because he only has power because we give him a platform. Soon as we delete the accounts and we take that away, what then? You have no business, you have no profit, you have no means of production. But yeah, we're all, myself included, we have a bondage to it, right? We're like, but my memories are here. How will I speak to A, B, and C? But I'm like, we used to interact before. We'll find another way. We'll find another medium, right? But they're only thriving because we're enabling them. That's what I mean about the world finishing. That you get the clarity and insights, you apply them, but you also get uncomfortable ones about how we are responsible for the stuff that we're seeing. And then we all got to take a grown-up decision how we're going to do it, but it will be in radical communal action. And with that, actually, let's talk about the accumulation of wealth. Let's talk about wealth accumulation, right? Because it's a big topic, especially with what Saturn's been up to in the last few years. So, number one, let's talk about it on a personal level. So, for me, it is so fascinating how during this transit, for me, growing up, the people would pride themselves on being loyal to a company or organization, right? And it was always like the more you could sacrifice your personal life, the more impressive you were as a professional, right? And it's so funny. We went from that really hardcore culture that existed very strongly and was praised for many, many decades to, and again, COVID never ended. I'm pretty sure we were just forced to go out and navigate the world because they could not deal with, they weren't losing money. They just weren't making the nasty amounts that they used to, right? How COVID or working in those scenarios gave us a little taste of actually you can work and have a nice home life. You don't have to be emotionally distressed. You don't have to be on these horrific commutes. It actually can be way more accommodating and flexible than they've allowed. And even now, there's so much research coming out about how having people in the office or controlling certain behaviors and the choices they have is actually like a psychological control thing that businesses do, right? To see the jump of people abiding and feeling scared of that to, I will leave this job if you don't give me flexible working. I will leave this job if you make me come into the office more than A, B, and C. It's phenomenal to me, right? And then even the whole kind of movement of quiet quitting, love it. I love it because you know what it is on a deeper level. Again, it's class consciousness. Truly, this is what class consciousness is about. I think it's people finally understanding, look, we truly are the valuable asset. Your organizations, your business, everything about you doesn't exist with us, right? It doesn't exist without us. Whether it's our talents and skills that you exploit, whether it's our consumption, our money, you cannot function without us. Why the hell are we still in this dynamic where you're exploiting our labor? And you know what? No, no beanie chairs, no free coffees, no pizza. I don't even care about promotions. I want to fundamentally have a happy, healthy, and secure life. And I'm consciously aware, even if it's in the long term, I cannot get that working for you. So now I'm prioritizing my own wants and needs. And even then, this is a video I'm going to do a little bit later, but I truly think you're going to see the death of so many kind of white collar jobs. And it's not because of AI. Fuck that bullshit. I think what you're going to see is a rise of people being self-employed, going back into trades. And likewise, you know what it is? People have been so let down by a range of organizations and institutions that honestly, it's not safe to work for them. Back in the day, it used to be a sign of safety. You have a nice job, you work at a company for a long time, cool, 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 you'll be taken care of. Nah. And also, on the other side of wealth accumulation is the ethics of it. So I've been dying to make this video, but I'm trying to feel it out a little bit more about, I have this great warning in my heart where I keep on share this message. I'm like, people need to be really conscious about how they make money, because I think in the coming years, how you make money, if it's unethical, you're gonna have an ass kicking or something's gonna happen, which it's however you've justified it, you will no longer be able to justify it. So whilst you can turn, build a nest egg, figure out an exit plan, go, 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 right? But I look at it like that too, because also one thing for me that's been really interesting is Saturn Aquarius to me is so much about community, right? and understanding by the time this transit ends, we are good and safer and wealthier in communities than we are as individuals, than we are as people who exclude others. Like, it's so much wealth in just the concept of community, right? But it's this idea that, like, during such contentious political times, how being an organization or working for certain groups has stopped people to being able to share their values, to exude their values, because they're so scared of losing their jobs, which again is very, like, completely understandable. And I think as we are officially in historical times and more historical things are coming, people are going to want to dip, right? But the whole thing is, it's a process to dismantle structures and norms and systems. So therefore, when you talk about the accumulation of wealth, people are going to be very conscious about, I need financial safety, but how do I build that in such a way that I'm not being exploited, and likewise I can stay true to my values. And that's going to become more extreme over the next 3.5 years when Saturn goes through Pisces, right? And also, what does wealth even mean? For me, again, I had this very fixed idea in my 20s about what richness and wealth and like what success looks like. Now I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. So again, when I think about wealth, for me, and again, this might be kind of corny, obviously financial safety and freedom is of the utmost importance. I'll never bullshit you on that front. But then I'm also like, you know what wealth is to me? It's the ability to buy a sweet treat whenever I want. It's the ability to be able to hang out with my friends or meet new people and not be worried that like I won't have money to pay my energy bills. Abundance to me is if anyone in my like loved ones needs help, I can give them that help. Like, I don't know. And then it's so funny to me because when I was younger, I was such a prick. But like, yeah, it would have been like the designer clothes, the BBLs, the big hair extensions. You see me in Dubai on a yacht, shaking my ass. Like, it's so funny and endearing, but also so stupid, right? And the older I get, I'm like, that's not really wealth. And it's so fish. It's like, it's not really real money. Does that make sense? I'm like, that shit goes, it doesn't sustain. And even now, I have more longevity in how I see money, right? I think for me, it's very like get rich quick schemes. So sad, but so true. And the older I got, I'm like, no, but like, number one, how do I make money last? Number two, how do I accumulate money that's impactful and I feel good about where it's coming from? Because even now, at the time of making this video, TikTok has obviously been banned in America. And we will have a separate conversation on this about the celebrity video that I'm going to make. But for me, it was so wild how so many of these influencers were so comfortable to share how all the stuff that they influence people to do, they weren't doing. And I was like, number one, I cannot believe you don't think you're going to get backlash as soon as these people are back online. But also, I was just like, I don't know. Like, for me, if money can only be accumulated through the harm of others in a really grotesque way for grotesque things, I don't really want it. And again, I think as someone who's a person of faith, one of the things I've learned, because again, I'm a geek, I like studying different religions, there has to be something in the fact that every religion in this world tells you to be super mindful of how you make your money, because that energy will meet you in the end. And even me, like, I'm in a position now where obviously, as we know, I read for like very famous people. I promise you, after a certain level of wealth, there is a trade, whether it's a trade of bad health, whether it's a trade of a broken marriage, like there's always something you will have to give up. And I'm going to be very frank with you. I have yet to speak to someone or read someone's chart who's of great substantial wealth and think it's worth it. So, I don't know, food for thought. Now let's talk globally, right? So, again, referring to the TikTok ban, for me, it's absolutely disgusting that we came up with a tool that it wasn't perfect, but it was better at making everyday people build income however they could with whatever they had. To take that away from them and to do it in such a way where you don't involve them in the conversation, you completely disregard their experiences, their kind of piece of the pie and what it means to them is so heartless and cruel. But I think this is the stuff you need to radicalize people because, again, astrologically, never forget we're in the downfall of colonialism. Do not underestimate how radical things have to get for people to finally give up and completely abandon colonial systems and structures and all its ideologies. sometimes people are going to have to take food off your plate, money from your bank, clothes off your back for you to get it. Because again, so many people and so many of us have adhered and for some reason just become obedient. Like, this is the only way we can financially live. These are financial norms. Like, if you want to get rich, you have to do A, B, and C, crunch, crunch, crunch. And now we're all looking at it like, no, forget that, F that. And also, I literally, yeah, I think globally also there's a question of like wealth disparities, right? Because I think about this a lot. Well, I'll bring this to YouTube, put it in the comments if you want me to make it. But in TikTok, before they got banned, I went out my way to make like a 10-part series breaking down America's chart. And one of the things that I came to have was, it's so weird to me for a country that, like, America first and A, B, and C, it's so dependent on every other continent and country for wealth, for resources, for products. But this is a country that's hell bent on being a crap global citizen who is not a nice member of the global community. But yeah, you can't function without us. And then I also did a video recently talking about, you're going to see, I'm not growing America. You're going to see a serious anti-American sentiment to all its people. No one's getting out of that. That is a catalyst for the downfall of America. And again, I think it's a conversation if it's not ethical for any one country to have that much wealth, because when you hoard wealth, you obviously influence everybody else's life. So again, the TikTok ban obviously has directly impacted Americans, but then you have so many other international creators who like, I've lost my audience, right? I've lost my income. And I'm just like, that whole idea of like hoarding wealth, hoarding power, accumulation, it's just not going to be very sexy. It's not going to be very tolerable. And I think in real time in the coming years, you are going to see a lot of attempts and schemes cooked up to break down that monopoly of power. And don't forget, even during Saturn going through Aquarius, I don't know why it wasn't being shown on the news a lot. And I only know it because, like, I'm ex-tech, right? And so many of the big tech companies were currently embroiled in really big US legal proceedings. TikTok's was minuscule. TikTok didn't actually do anything wrong, but like Meta was in like incredible legal shit. So was Apple, so was Google, and all of this kind of stuff. And they were trying to break up the monopolies and like kill them in the market essentially, so they could stop stifling other like newbies coming to the table. Because again, when you have monopolies, you lose market innovation, you lose competitive edge. Even then, for me, the whole thing with America versus Asian tech companies, which to a certain extent I do take personally, I'm like, the reason you are lagging behind is because you enable these big monopolies, where whereas in Asia, competition is encouraged. Whoever is the best, whoever creates the shiniest product, whoever gets it, whoever knows how to commit to community, the market's yours. And you're not allowed to, like, one company then can't go to buy on like several different companies. Like, it's already regulated but in the healthiest way possible, right? We have huge issues with censorship, I'll give you that, but even then, like, I think about this, the conversation around wealth accumulation has really taught me that freedom is an illusion. There's so many people who chat shit about, at least we're a free country. No, you're not. You have no choices. And whilst I appreciate I may come from countries where it looks like we don't have a lot of freedom, we have choices. And never would the government be so breezy to at least forego the illusion of that we have choices. So yeah, when I think about wealth accumulation, I think it's a byproduct of this restlessness, of this piss offness of not allowed to live a life that's sincere to the person, their values, and their identity. I think it also is a reflection of a breaking away of values and things that we used to appreciate. Yeah. And sometimes money is the game changer, right? Because I also wonder, what do you do if you uphold certain values, but it's because you align it to economic safety and success? And you are shown, and I feel like it will be this year because 2025 is a great year of humiliation, that whatever ideologies or values you had doesn't actually contribute to your economic safety or success. What then? Like, what are your values? What are you going to do? Like, what's happening here? And for instance, so many people migrated over to Redbook, the Chinese app, right? And the one thing that I thought was absolutely mind blowing was how many people realized the country that you are taught is communist, is horrible, is censorship, A, B, and C. They have a better standard of living than you. They are safer than you. They have access to more things and rights than you do here. It's the same way when people chat shit about India. Obviously, in India, we also have huge wealth disparities, but India is one of the most progressive countries when it comes to legislation around abortions, right? We dominate the pharmaceutical industry, and again, you can access healthcare much cheaper in India, and some of it free. The quality of free is questionable, but nonetheless. But this is the same country you'll buy people piss in pots. They're uneducated. Meanwhile, your countries have the highest rates of illiteracy, highest rates of suicide, highest rates of economic unstable. But you're meant to be the great power. You're meant to be the wealthiest, strongest nations in the world. I don't think so. Like I said, astrologically, with the downfall of colonialism, that has many roots that it will unroot. And let's get to the final point about Saturn. Let's talk about illusions breaking, because that's my favorite trait about Saturn, and that is probably the most potent part that you have felt. Now, the final trait is probably the most scariest trait when it comes to Saturn, and you really have nothing to be frightened about at all. But when you talk about Saturn shatters illusions, people was like, but for what reason, right? Be realistic, be honest. Think of it like this. Would you rather brick by brick, build a palace that is made of stone and something stable and strong that, yeah, maybe it was a struggle to build, maybe it took time to build, but it will last? Or do you constantly want to show off you living in a paper mansion when the wind blows, even so delicately, everything gets knocked down? And why do you love living in that paper mansion? Even though you know it's not secure, even though you know it's illusion, is because what? It makes you feel good. It makes your ego flashy. You get a quick hit or fix of something. But it's not realistic. It's not safe. It's not gonna bring you longevity, right? When you think about your journey over the last few years of Saturn going through all the Aquarius nakshatras, it is ultimately a love letter to, if you want this life that you so deeply crave and you want to see the changes that you are so hungry for, work with reality, be honest, work with clarity, be objective, and you can do that. I cannot give you that if you keep trying to, I don't know, like make excuses for stuff. Try and act like things aren't as bad as they are. Try and think if you take quick shortcuts, you can achieve the same results as like the work that comes with like 5, 6, 10, 15 years or whatever. There is beauty in a slow process. There is beauty in brick by brick building something. There is beauty in building your muscles, building that strength, getting better over time. There is nothing good in stuff that is done quickly and cheaply. There's nothing good about the first person to show up, because also, even if you're the first person to show up or the first person to get something, you've also given clues and blueprints to other people about what not to do. So then what happens? Even if they're late to the party, or perhaps they're one of the last ones to arrive, they will build something that is inevitably stronger, better, more durable, more smarter than your thing. So when you look at this idea of breaking illusions, yeah, initially probably a bit heartbreaking, probably very saddening, right? Because your comfort zones lie there, it's your norms, it potentially is the foundation that you built a lot of stuff off. But what good is a foundation if it's so flimsy? What good is a foundation if it's built on dishonesty? Not like, if what is the point in it? So take the L, whatever. You fall down, you have a scab, it will heal, but deal with reality. Face the truth. Build with truth and you are prosperous. Anything else, it's just not going to end well, right? And I mean that in the sweetest way possible. Even me, like, I'll take you back to the role of me being a D&I consultant, right? When I first started, there was like a good 6 weeks, right, in my first couple of jobs where I was doing everything in a way that was much more HRy and kind of like socially approved. And then all I thought was, this is such bullshit. Because even on paper, if this looks correct and figuratively is good, I'm not actually changing the things that are harming people. What I'm doing is I am coasting and literally bathing people who are responsible for the harm and exploitation of other people to make them feel like they're not guilty, or they don't have to face the consequences, or things don't have to be changed for other people to feel safe, right? They just don't want to be in the firing line, right? And I remember the delusional shit I would say to myself to make myself feel better about the job I was doing. And then literally one night in the winter, and ironically, it would have been in the first couple of months where I was doing like colonizer free astrology online, I just went, enough. Like, actually, fuck this. I feel like this uneasiness that I feel with myself is a lot about how I'm betraying my values in my day to day activities. God bless me, Rani, but you were blessed with a spicy mouth. You were blessed with very clear speech. You were blessed with like absolute fucking Kanye levels of imagination. Pedal to the metal, throw it to the wall. Because the thing is, one thing I found is people who thrive on illusions or on a manufactured identity in A, B, and C, they may seem really big and scary, almost like the Wizard of Oz, right? This big, scary wizard, but like, in fact, it's an old man in a fucking photo booth. What they are not prepared for is actual direct conflict and actually calling them out. So I'm so scared to retaliate or do things differently because I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do A, B, and C. When in fact, soon as I open my mouth, they're too taken aback to be confronted that I'm like, okay, sign the paper, we'll do A, B, and C, and da 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 da. Because also, if you object me, the thing you're objecting about makes you look hella nasty as a person. So what's it going to be? And then, yeah, I think that was a huge thing for me. And also, maybe on a personal level, the breaking of illusions doesn't even have to be like things are not what you thought they were. They might be illusions about yourself. I gag for all the years people had a nickname for me where it's like Rani the humanitarian, Little Miss So and So, da da da. And I'm like, it's almost like they knew my destiny before I did. Because the way I was so resistant, the way you could not get me to speak on camera, the way I didn't want to be seen by anybody, to now like, you know what? Because I would always be so scared. Like, oh, I don't really sound super smart. I don't feel like I have the most knowledge compared to people who are experts in A, B, and C. And now I'm like, you know what? It's okay if I don't have all the knowledge, but I know something, and I would like to share what I'm learning with others. And you know what? We'll perfect over time. So then also the breaking of illusions it's not embarrassing. Your culture is actually kind of cool. You can talk about religion and not be a freak or be seen like that. Just go for it. But I don't know, you have to meet reality. You have to be okay with the truth it delivers you. Otherwise, you can stay in your illusions. But the thing I'm trying to tell you is 2025 is the year of humiliation. This is the most cosmic ass kicking you will see for a couple of years, and then another bigger one is coming. But I'm just like, look, what a shame to feel shitty, humiliated, embarrassed just because you didn't want to embrace certain wonderful truths about you, and also you didn't want to embrace uncomfortable truths around you. The moment of uncomfortability is really short compared to the long term. And like for me, because when you talk about the year of humiliation, the other side of it is a year of validation. There's going to be so many people when certain people meet the consequences of whatever nonsense they've been up to and the reality of that nonsense. Other people, they're not going to be like, I told you so, but you will feel very comfortable and confident that you are living a life where you are not falling prey to the same nonsense over here. It's a year of clear winners and losers. It's a year of allies and enemies changing. It's a significant year. And so much of it is based around illusions. And even that, think about things we talked about, right? The illusion that you hate people when you don't. You've never met these people. You've never had a chance to break bread with these people. You were fed that illusion. This illusion that you can only make money when you're being exploited, or you have to prioritize a job that would chuck you in a heartbeat and it's the right thing to do is an illusion. The illusion that we live in just societies, the illusions around this is the only safe political party, when in reality, no, like that's what I mean. Every illusion that could crumble has crumbled. Your acceptedness of that crumbling is completely free will. But what I'm saying is, everything in your life, whether it's personal, communal, whatever the other layers are, has been knocked to shit. What do you gain from keeping these illusions? Truly. And if you can come up with at least like 3 valid, good reasons why keeping those illusions works for you, then go for it. But me personally, I don't think anything comes from it. And you are better, again, to move past these things than to cling on to them. And also, one thing I would caution people to do is make sure in your work, whatever you're up to in this life, however you're navigating, whoever you're responsible for engaging with or interacting with, be honest about who you are. Don't be running illusions on other people. None of that nonsense. Because Saturn's going to take on 3 new traits when it moves into Pisces. Those 3 traits will be particularly cruel. And Saturn has to be cruel in Pisces because it's there to serve humanity. But that coolness is it's just nasty. So yeah, just be sincere, be honest, embrace yourself. Know you can do things differently. The things that don't exist that you would like to exist, you have all the power to create them. But be patient, put in the hard work, and remember what I said: community, community, community. You are only as safe and valued and all these wonderful things as you are when you give that to other people, and you can receive that from other people. If you were just me, and you navigate from that space, this earth has nothing to offer you. And even if there are glimmers of time where it can offer you treasures and wealths and people, I promise you it will end in heartbreak. And most importantly, you can't take it to the next life. And if you were shitbag in this life, is it worth spending like whatever life ahead in complete misery? God is a comedian, like I tell you all. Now let's break down the Aquarius nakshatras so you pick up the flavor of everything. Let's begin by discussing Saturn's objectives when it goes through Dhanishta. That's Aquarius type 1 to 2. Now, Dhanishta is famously an oddball. It's ruled by Mars. What Dhanishta talks about, its power is the power to make someone a celebrity or gather a lot of recognition for themselves and their talents and skills. The reason for that is they are different. They have different values. They are not happy in the norms that exist. Quite the troublemakers and the game changers. But this is the whole point. The beginning journey of Saturn going through Aquarius was for people who are marginalized, who are oddballs, who perhaps feel outcasts of society, to start to switch on. Actually, it's in my differences that I can create better things. I can give solutions. I can make a difference. I can deliver something that's more healthier, fairer for society. But you're not fitting in. You're not going to be agreeable. You're not going to like what's happening. So you have to have not just validation and courage and self-confidence in your differences, but you've got to have the nerve to act on them. And again, think about the restlessness that we've gone through with this transit, right? Enough is enough. Dhanishta's symbol are musical instruments, right? It's Shiva's drum and Krishna's flute. What it's talking about is, for these individuals, there's a big antagonization that happens to them about stop living a hollow life. Make it meaningful and learn to follow God's timing and not force your own. The other thing is, Dhanishta means like complete wealth, full abundance. And it's nothing even to do with just like rich, like obviously money talks, but it's not the be all and end all. In readings all the time, I'm always discussing with people, career fulfillment and emotional fulfillment are 2 different beasts. You cannot train and conquer them the same, and do not connect them because they are not connected, right? That's a great ruse of colonialism. And even traditionally, if you look at Saturn when it goes through Dhanishta, what it's talking about is an ego breaking exercise that the individual will go through. It goes from me to we. It starts to switch on. It actually wants to be of service to humanity. But it's a bit of a bumpy journey, because then it's all of a sudden it has to contend that people have different wants and needs. And perhaps its version of saving, entertaining, educating might not work for everybody. Right? So then it has to learn how to build community. It has to learn patience. Even Dhanishta's sacred animal, it's the wife of Narasimha, right? So Narasimha is this incarnation of God who literally is like, so there's a demon who essentially asks to be all these things so no one can ever defeat it, right? Can't kill me in day, can't kill me in night. Can't kill me if human, can't kill me if you're a god, right? All these very specific things, and it thinks it's so clever and it can never be defeated. Narsima is a manifestation of God and is a perfect example when you can't, God can, because he kills him at dawn, when it's neither day or night. He comes in a form of half animal, half human, right? So he is the exception to every list that demon has made. And essentially, when Narsima is enraged because his demon has terrorized the world for many years in the most horrific ways, obviously, when he gets his claws on him, he's going for it, right? The issue is, even after he kills this demon king, he's still in a rage. So he's still going. And then everyone's concerned that shit, he's going to destroy the world. Like, this is not going to end well. So then they call down his spouse, who is half woman, half lioness. And it talks a lot about when we surround ourselves with sensible people. And again, people, they can be different to us, but again, they feed the good things in us. We flourish. We stay on the path of Dharma, the right attributes come up. And we stay balanced. We don't get lost in the source of the hate or the tumultuousness of it all. And also there's a little line about there how lionesses are actually stronger than lions, but whatever. But does that make sense? The original journey of Saturn in Dhanisha is that brutal wake-up call of deep resentment to the life that you're living. My individual journey, or whatever I've been feeling, like this shit doesn't really feel good. It doesn't make me feel actually wealthy and rich. And then it's a slow caveat to go and find your community. Ironically, a lot of you met me when Saturn was going through Dhanisha, right? It is that pivot towards community, is that pivot towards cosmic and God's timing. And the difference is, we don't need more of the same. The more of the same is the issue why 2025 will be the way it's going to be, right? But yeah, Saturn in Dhanisha, you are looking at the realignment of the individual. They go through an ego breaking exercise because they work out, one, they have to play ball with other people. Number two, again, they're a little bit prideful. They obviously, but maybe the way I was living life actually wasn't all that. So I need to change. And then it's a thing of patience. As I work through this journey, I need to be patient. I need to pour in. Let's go. Even then, the ruling deities of Dhanisha are the 8 Vasuls, which represent different stages of manifestation. This is why I always say to you, not everyone can do manifestation, because some nakshatras are aligned for it and other people are not. But even then, think about it. It's the stages of manifestation. Something doesn't happen overnight. We have to be consistent in our actions. We have to show up. We have to be able to adapt to different spaces. And then over time, when you put all that action, alchemy, and energy into something, the very thing you want will appear. And that thing can appear against all odds, against all expectations, but it is in that work ethic, is in that consistency, is in that honesty. And again, being ruled by Mars, there's a whole conversation around a code of ethics. Because for me, Dhanisha is really interesting. In one regard, these are some of the most famous people we've ever had in certain industries, some of the most powerful people. But they all go through brushes of where they've been seen as unethical or their ethics are called into question. And then they have to figure out how they're going to defend them. So again, maybe it's a gentle nod between, well, you say you believe A, B, and C, but your consumption, your interaction, the things you're doing are not really honest towards those values. So now what? Which actually leads me to Saturn in Shatabishka. I love Saturn in Shatabishka. It literally creates some of the world's most interesting and really cool people. It's a Shah Rukh Khan, it's a Maya Jama, it's these really admirable figures who've overcome a lot of adversity. Again, were people who were looked down upon, were not considered initially like the prototypes for their industries or their careers, and then they dominate. Chef's kiss. You know I love to see it, right? But let's start breaking it down. So Shatabishka in English, it has many meanings. I think the most popular one will probably be 100 demons and 100 gods, right? This idea of 100 demons and 100 healers. So naturally, when we look at Shatabishka, what is an immensely powerful nakshatra? It's one that houses a lot of pain. And Shatabishka's unique lesson is learning how to process past life karmas that have held it back, go through that, collect the wisdom, put bad habits down, pick up good habits, and then it flourishes. One of the original symbols for Shatabishka was the cosmos. It was like 100 glittering stars. And what it was alluding to is sometimes the pain, the trials and tribulations we go through are actually there to inspire and heal and help other people. Because if we show we can do something and we were not favored and we were not given any handouts and we really were doubted for such a long time, what do you reckon it does for other people? I always say to people, you never know who your story is meant to impact or the stuff that God is doing to your life. You never know the long-term consequences and the wider impact. So just as much as you can, rise to the occasion, like fight your corner kind of thing. But yeah, traditionally, when you look at Saturn Shatabishka, it's this really lovely message that, number one, you will have to face the music, because again, Shatabishka, very successful sign. It's known as God's fortunate star, but that they have to definitely process some dicey life experiences and again, attributes of themselves that are not so shiny and brilliant, but you will come out 9 times out of 10 quite well with this placement. But then it's this idea of how to be of service to the rest of the world. And again, think about Shah Rukh Khan and Maya Jama and how much they are loved by people and how nice they are with people, right? Everyone always loves meeting them. They always take time out to speak to people, take pictures, repost. They engage with it. Like, what does Shah Rukh Khan say? I am nothing without my fans. They gave me this. It's not me. So how could I ever not give back to them? Even Maya Jama, her community or her platform is so diverse. I think she's like half Somali, half Swedish, right? Obviously, she's a British babe, but the way she can break bread with anyone and everyone and step into different rooms and make everyone feel warm and comfortable tells you something. And again, going back to the symbol of those 100 stars, is this idea that we all belong to the cosmos. So it's in our ability to exist peacefully and help one another. That's where the brilliance is. Shatabishka is the star of healing. Its power is the power to heal. So then there's this unique message too, where it's like, okay, whilst I appreciate the troubles you have are heartbreaking, don't lose your heart. I'm giving you a certain type of wisdom. I am making an example out of you. And if I can show that you can survive these difficulties and stuff, what do you think it gives to other people? Think about how a lot of the prophets from different religions, they don't have nice stories. They have horrible stories. They have stories of heartbreak. They have stories of betrayal, mockery, humiliation, but they stand, and so did their ideas. So did their philosophical views, their religious output, their experiences with God. It stands, it inspired others. Why can that not be you? Why can that not be you in the sciences? Why can that not be you in media? Why can that not be you in politics? Why can that not be you in education, healthcare, the internet, so on and so forth? So again, when you look at Saturn and Shatabishka, you're seeing different things. I think number one, you're seeing the slow process of a removal of shame and humiliation for maybe past fuck-ups or areas about us that aren't so shiny. Then you're seeing this really lovely urge to actually want to help other people, but in a way that's sincere, not pompous or a savior complex, but genuinely like, wow, I really struggle with this, or wow, like I really had a tough time with this. Wonder if I could remove that for other people. Or I wonder if I could work with other people to make a difference. And then finally, fortune. Aquarius is a sign of great wealth. If you go along with the changes, you back your corner and you embrace who you really are, you hold yourself accountable for perhaps your shitty traits, you will only but flourish. That's what Saturn and Shatabishka is trying to teach you. Think about a lot of the politics and the different elections we've seen across the world. There are so many parties where they thought they would be successful running on a platform of shiny beliefs that have worked in the past when their actions have not matched up. And instead of owning up to it, and instead of being honest, and it's like, again, instead of just essentially thinking of community and doing stuff the way it should have been done, because they couldn't be honest about their downfall, their bad habits in A, B, and C, ultimately, they did not get the successful outcomes they were hoping in those elections. And then they have to sit with that. Like, you have to acknowledge the not so good aspects of you with Saturn and Shatabishka to flourish. But as soon as you acknowledge it, soon as you start working on it, and the thing is, Saturn will give legacy. Saturn will give longevity. Saturn is an accumulation of wealth. Everyone in your personal, professional lives, whatever, you are being shown in so many positive ways. If you go that path, you're safe. But if you want to stay on this bullshit, that's fine. But there's no safety. There's no happiness. There's nothing here. You will only really be a disservice to you. Shatabishka's known because I think it's Vata dosha, right? It has a particularly anxious mind. It's always thinking dinner, almost like people with ADHD and stuff. So again, brilliant ideas, but if they don't know how to manage ourselves, they discombobulate, right? I saw this really great TikTok where this guy was saying you need to be more mindful when you are a content creator or you're trying to be online in that capacity, because the internet will, yes, queen you to death whilst you have a mental breakdown, and that's crazy. And you have to have that self-awareness and accountability and be open to people who really love you to stop looking crazy out here. So again, I think Saturn and Shatabishka is ultimately that choice about fix up, pattern up, heal certain things, be very aware of your not so great traits, surround yourself with great people and flourish. All the other stuff, cool, keep dodgy people around, keep trying to get validation in weird places, keep not being yourself, but you will suffer. And FYI, in that journey, only your worst attributes will come out. Shatabishka favors the oddballs. It favors people who are clean of heart, pure intentions. Even if they are the underdog, even if they don't come with the perfect talents and skills, Saturn and Shatabishka will build them in such a way that they are the only one. They are the icons, they work A, B, and C. So you don't come ready-made perfect, but the journey will take you to near enough perfection. Or even in your imperfections, people will find you perfect. You know, so again, think about that transition from Saturn to Dhanishta, about not being me to we. Then from Dhanishta to Shatabishka, you're looking at this evolving of, I'm no longer actually embarrassed or humiliated about maybe where I've dropped the ball, I haven't done so well, but I would like to do really well moving forward. I would like to make a difference. And you can and you do, which then leads us to Saturn and Bhadra, where we're currently at. So let's talk about it. Oh no, I just got an alert that I have a reading in a few minutes. I'm so sorry, Hibiscus says. One day, my time management is going to be on point and I will have all the help I need to make these different videos on different platforms. Until then, we make do with what we have. So let's get down to business. When Saturn goes for Bhadra, Aquarius type 7 to 9, this is the main message. Essentially, people no longer have attraction to the worldly things or the things that they did previously. In fact, it now is so tired and fed up of all of it, it simply wants to break away from it. Bhadra actually hugely linked to social justice, right? And also, the thing with Bhadra, it frets a lot. It's very anxious. It tends to be very worried, easily agitated, but it's because it has such a fear that what it's doing isn't enough. And again, it's so concerned about the welfare of humanity and like different social justice issues. It does not have the patience to wait for change. It wants to deliver it. Bhadra's symbol is 2 crossed swords. It talks about this ability to attack, but also defend oneself. So what you're looking at is this. You're looking at a trajectory where you wake the hell up, then you start addressing the things about yourself that are good and not so good. You make those changes, and then you actually get really serious about not going back to that old way of life. That's why I'm telling you, audit everything around you. What is making you flourish? What is holding you back? What are we engaging with that perhaps is actually enabling us losing our human rights, us being censored, us giving power and platforms to people, right? Because Bhadra is also known is to be ruled by a deity who is considered the unbirthed one. So it talks about blessings yet to come. So there's this idea that, look, if you learn to stand up for yourself, you get really good at having uncomfortable conversations, acknowledging the rotten society and really dealing with the mucky and nastiness in the world and priding yourself on the ability to problem solve it in an ethical way. Bhadra means later blessings. All this work you do will meet you in the end and it will work out so nicely. One of the original deities for Bhadra, essentially, don't laugh, is like a deformed, like half animal looking deity. And what it talks about is, even though this deity nurtures the world, builds the world and all that kind of jazz, fundamentally the deity thinks it's ugly. It thinks it's ugly, it thinks it's unlovable and all of that. So also there's a lesson here. Don't underestimate the power you have. You absolutely can be as effective as anybody else. Think about the videos I'm making. Think about the messages I'm giving to you all the time through YouTube and the other platforms. It's you that makes the changes. We no longer are relying on the old leaders. They're going to go through their own reckoning, right? Step away. But when you step away from them and stop being reliant on them, you step up. You become local leaders. You become sources of education and wealth and helping. I watched this film recently and it literally warmed my little heart. It was called Bank of Dave. It's on Netflix, and like he's a local man that has like a successful minibus company, and he works out all the people in Burnley are basically financially suffering, and then when the banks went bust after the financial crisis, they got bailed out, but meanwhile these local working class people are like underliving themselves, they're losing their businesses, and the banks won't bail them out, and they've never done wrong. So basically he goes, fuck this, I'm gonna open the first bank, and it's the first bank to be open outside of an institution in like hundreds of years, and it works, and it's a real life story. But this is what I'm saying, like, stop waiting for them to save you when they suffer in your exploitation. You will deliver yourself, and also whilst you deliver yourself, you're going to help out everybody else around you. You're going to give them the fire in their stomach. When I think of Bhuva Bhadra, it's not an easy sign at all. It's really complex. It's Aquarius going into Pisces. Do you know what's so funny? A lot of criminals have Bhuva Bhadra, but they're almost like Robin Hood figures. So then you can argue, are they actually a criminal or are they for the people, right? But this is my point. Obviously, be ethical. Don't do anything stupid out here. But like, real change is going to come from radical stuff. You cannot in any way, shape or form keep engaging with shit in your old life and think it's going to bring anything new or wonderful to you. And I'm really sorry to say, if you cannot severe that bondage, this year your ass gets kicked from it. So be honest about everything around you, and don't worry about your past fuck ups. Just do better moving forward and you'll be safe. But you staying with a delusion, you staying caught up with all this nonsense is not going to work. And just remember, Bhuva Bhadra is ruled by Jupiter, the guru. This will either bless you or expand your issues, and all of that feeling is determined by how you use your free will. So think about everything we've discussed. Saturn is direct now, and this is the point I wanted to make, right? 2025 is such a big year because the big four are finishing these really long journeys in nakshatras. And with any transit, where it's a personal mahadasha or it's a wider horoscope, the message is always clear. It will start the transit trying to teach you something, and then it gives you the whole time of that transit to figure things out, gather some wisdom and apply it. And at the end of the transit, you either face cool consequences or not so cool consequences based on did you learn the lesson and apply the wisdom. Because then all it does is in the next cycle it expands on whatever you have ended up with. Think about everything we have discussed. There is nothing good for you in the past. The past was never good. It was always an illusion. It was always about us being exploited. A lot of it was us learning how to numb ourselves to cope with all the things that make us unhappy. Your time of reflection, introspection is over. Action now. You know everything you need to know. The cards you were meant to be dealt have been dealt for you. How do you want to finish off this transit? Do you want to show Saturn you've got better at swimming, your strokes are much deeper, stronger, you can get through the waves? Do you still need a paddle, right? Again, no problem, but then be honest about where you need a paddle. Or like, are you just fucking around? Did you pay no attention to the swimming lessons? And so when we chuck you in for the final lap, you think floating is enough to get you by? Yeah. That's the whole point of Vedic astrology. Like, astrology is not this thing where you were gifted or cursed with one thing. You are measured on your actions. You are measured on the process of self-realization. You are measured on the karmas you give and you build and you take. Just show up in the world in such a way that is, one, like, respectful of you and others, but also like you can do things differently. Don't ever feel like you are just a victim of circumstances. There's so much more to you than that. Other than that, yeah, Saturn's direct. Now it's time to apply the wisdom. It was retrograde for the last few months, ironically, when a lot of the elections were happening. But now it's direct. Now you have the results of all the karmas and all the things you're up to. What would you like to do differently? If you're currently in a story that you don't like, what new chapters are you going to write? How do we close this book and start a new book? Think hibiscuses. Time is running out. That 20-year cycle is near enough going to begin very, very shortly. Make it a cycle that you feel comfortable going through. Don't put yourself in a position where you are rat running on a wheel. Other than that, bye.